DC, Gotham anti-hero rises with ultimate powers. Episode 16, at an outdoor coffee shop in Gotham. Barbara, because of the long fight against crime, it is rare to have time to find Jiang Li to get together. After all, he is the boy he likes, but he can't dilute his feelings because of time. Barbara squinted and carefully observed Jiang Li. As one of Batman's henchmen, she also learned some detective skills from the other party. She observed that Jiang Li's mental state seemed to be even worse than the last time she met, and she was already wearing large, extremely obvious dark circles. "Leave, have you been staying up late a lot lately?" Hearing this, Jiang Li's action of drinking coffee suddenly paused, and the afterglow from the corner of his eyes couldn't help but glance at the Black Lily, who was also drinking coffee at another table. Barbara, I'm afraid you don't know how your college classmates got over these 3 days. There is Harley in the morning and Black Lily in the evening. Even if he is a superhuman as strong as the captain of the moldy country, he can't bear it, which man can accept 5 times a week, or 2 together. It's like going to work with Mera. Recently I have become addicted to chess, and I can't help but stay up a few times. When Barbara heard this, she thought how this could work. She burned her body at this time. What would she do in her love life in the future? And immediately cared. "You can't do this, don't burn out your body because of the game, rest more." Understand. Jiang Li pulled the corners of his mouth and forcibly ended the topic. Since Harley knew that there was an extra Black Lily in his room, she directly moved in without hesitation, and there were 3 people crammed into one bed in one room. Paying public food has become a farce, like a competition for them, and in the end, it is Jiang Li who can't eat it. Damn, if only I checked in the future, I could sign in with unlimited energy. In this way, for them, she is good and I am good. This little handsome guy, if you don't mind, can you have a drink with me? At this time, for some reason, Black Lily came over by herself, pulled a chair and sat next to Jiang Li, and said. Xiang's body was close to Jiang Li, and her lips came to his ear and continued, "I help the boss and you to check the gate, which is also one of the duties of subordinates." When Jiang Li heard this, he glared at Black Lily, and it was because of Black Lily's arch fire that Harley moved directly into his apartment, and finally began to live a painful and happy life. And Barbara saw the woman with a different skin color in front of her close to the person she liked, and she immediately became angry, slapped the table fiercely and stood up. Snap. But this time everyone nearby looked over, so that Barbara couldn't help but blush, and had to sit back again. "Who are you?" "Obviously, I am a lonely and empty woman in my heart, and I want to find a strong and handsome man to satisfy my heart." Jiang Li's eyelids jumped, and he couldn't help it, and immediately wanted to tell Barbara that Black Lily was just his subordinate. But in the next second, Black Lily seemed to see his purpose and directly blocked Jiang Li's mouth with his jade hand. "Little handsome guy, don't talk, next is the war of women," Black Lily said with a smile. "Yes, the war between us," Barbara said through gritted teeth. Suddenly, the 2 women's gazes staggered, producing sparks that were invisible to the naked eye. "I'll go to the bathroom." Jiang Li did not want to participate in the war between women, so he chose to open the wise without hesitation. After slipping, Jiang Li naturally did not really go to the toilet, but casually strolled around the mall, and waited until the confrontation between the 2 women was over before going back. Jiang Li came to a park chair far away from the 2 women and sat down, stretched Erling's legs and said to himself, "It's strange, Gotham is a little quiet today. This is very abnormal. In the past, Gotham was often accompanied by gunshots and sirens, but now there are no these sounds, which is a bit strange." Hearing this, the jade hand of the black-haired woman sitting on the other side of the park chair feeding the stray cat paused slightly, and her gaze did not look at Jiang Li, but continued to feed the stray cat and said, "It's rare for Gotham to be quiet, isn't that a good thing?" Jiang Li glanced at the black-haired woman next to him, and had to say that she was a beautiful woman again, and she could see the woman's graceful figure from the side. A moment of silence is often followed by a storm. The woman's charming and moving eyes then looked at the man next to her, and the corners of her mouth rose slightly. "It seems that you know Gotham very well." Not to mention that he already knew Gotham well in his previous life, and from the time he was 7 years old to now, he has also seen through what Gotham City is like. As for why he is so sure, because he knows that the Joker is still at large, and sooner or later Gotham City will fall into his bloody game because of this madman. "Ma'am, how about a bet?" "Oh? Interesting, let's listen." The woman is rarely interested, mainly because the man in front of her is a little too charming. "If Gotham is going to fall into chaos because of some crazy person next, then even if I win, then the lady will give me something that you think is precious." Although Jiang Li's tone was very much like playing hooligans, the most precious thing he said was very ambiguous. Everyone's most precious things are often different, some are money, some are life. You can even treat the leaves next to you as the most precious thing, for the sake of tricks. Therefore, Jiang Li did not say the chips very positively. This also takes into account that the other party is a strange woman. Okay. The woman's laughter was pleasant, and she continued, "Well, if I win, you'll have to treat me to dinner." The two looked at each other and laughed, but then something sudden happened. Boo! In the distant square, a violent explosion suddenly occurred, and a roaring fire appeared in the eyes of the two. "Look, it looks like I won." Episode 17. Selena looked at the flames in the distance, and said after being slightly stunned, "You already knew that such a thing would happen." Hearing Selena's somewhat aggrieved tone, Jiang Li raised his hand to make a French military salute, and said with a slight smile, "That's really wronged. To be honest, I didn't know that such a thing would happen." "This is true, who knows that this will really happen in the next second." "Okay, I should go too." Jiang Li stood up, straightened his trench coat, and said to Selena, "There will be a period later, ma'am." After speaking, Jiang Li walked towards the direction of the explosion in the square, leaving only a dashing back. Selena looked at Jiang Li's back and smiled charmingly, her eyes shining faintly. No one knew what was going on in her heart. When Jiang Li came to the place where the explosion occurred, he saw fireflies equipped with jets flying in the air behind him, constantly spraying flames at the ground. "Ahaha! I'm going to burn Gotham City to ashes." When Jiang Li heard these words, he couldn't help but complain in his heart. "Where are you from, Johnny Silverhand?" Poof! Suddenly, a sound like a smoke bomb exploded into Jiang Li's ears. Jiang Li heard the prestige, and saw that he was holding a homemade pistol, and the end of the pistol was still connected to the pipe behind him, and the image should be a killer moth. Those cloudy smoke were sucked into the body by innocent passersby, and soon those passersby began to fester and bleed. There are two villains at the same time. Jiang Li's eyes narrowed. It seemed that someone had organized a supervillain to make trouble, and 9 times out of 10 it should be the clown who ran out not long ago. Suddenly, Jiang Li felt something, and suddenly retreated 3 meters behind him, and a strong acid liquid was dodged by Jiang Li and shot on a street lamp. The tube of the street lamp was instantly corroded by strong acid, and finally fell to the ground with a bang. Oh, it was avoided. Seeing that his attack was being avoided, the killer moth was immediately very upset and said. Jiang Li's eyes were cold. He really didn't expect that someone would be in a hurry to die. He slowly raised his hands. Bang bang. The 2 bullets accurately hit the killer moth's legs, and the killer moth instantly lost its balance and fell to the ground with a plop. AAA, killer moth doesn't really think he's Batman, but won't he get used to them and send them to jail with his fists? He still likes to send them to hell with a gun. The next moment, the screams of the killer moth made the fireflies look over, and seeing that there was a new incineration target, the fireflies immediately flew in the direction of Jiang Li. Alas, another one that is not fatal. I saw Jiang Li slowly raise his hand, pull the trigger, and the white ivory bang shot out a powerful bullet. Headshot blow, death. A precise and powerful bullet passed through its helmet and hit the firefly in the head, and the firefly instantly lost its balance, fell from the air, slammed into the ground, and declared dead. After solving the firefly, Jiang Li turned to look at the killer moth, who was kneeling on the ground. When the killer moth saw Jiang Li walking towards him, his body couldn't help shaking, and he hurriedly kept knocking his head on the ground, knocking as hard as he could. I'm sorry for this, big brother. I'm sorry. I won't dare again. Jiang Li glanced at him indifferently, put the muzzle of the ebony wood on the top of the killer moth's head, and said in a cold voice, say this to the revenants of hell. In the next second, a sudden bullet instantly penetrated the killer moth's head, and scarlet blood stained the earth. Plop. The body fell weakly to the ground. Seeing this, Jiang Li rolled to the side without hesitation, hiding his figure behind the fountain. It seems that there are snipers. At the same time, on the rooftop in the distance, the death shooter was lying on the ground, aiming at the sniper rifle in the direction of Jiang Li. He did not feel the slightest wave in his heart about the death of Firefly and Killer Moth's accomplices, but felt happy because he could share more money. Humph, the money bag is up again. Let me see how long you can hide. Inside the scope was always the fountain where Jiang Li was hiding behind. Sign in Firefly, reward, super energy, greatly increase the upper limit of energy and recovery speed. Check in Killer Moth, reward, super stamina, greatly increase the upper limit of stamina and recovery speed. As soon as Jiang Li listened to the good guy, these 2 insect brothers gave him a mental and physical buff bonus, which helped him a lot. But now let's fix the guy upstairs. 3, 2, 1, run. After speaking, Jiang Li ran quickly like a ghost. The death shooter saw the target appear, and the muzzle was aimed at Jiang Li. For the death shooter in 100 shots, Jiang Li's running speed could not dodge the opponent's bullets. But... bang! Jiang Liang's eagle-like eyes caught the brief and faint fire emitted by the sniper rifle when it fired, and his hand quickly raised. Remote block. The bullet was fended off by Jiang Li's white ivory raised on the head, and the sparks of the collision between metals illuminated Jiang Li's confident and charming eyes in the darkness. Wardfa? The death shooter is dumbfounded. Who can predict that his bullet can still be blocked? This is completely open. But when he came back to his senses and wanted to aim at Jiang Li again, the other party had already entered the parking building where he was. The death shooter could only curse secretly, and then left the rooftop with his gun. Episode 18, What do you say? You said there were already 3 before me. Barbara seemed to have heard some earth-shattering news, and her eyes stared in surprise like copper bells. Just now, in this lilac-skinned woman, I learned that Jiang Li, whom she has liked since college, actually has a girlfriend, and there is more than one? Of course, you have obviously been secretly promising since the beginning of college, but you are delayed until you graduate from college because of shyness, which is completely the result of hesitation and defeat. The bad woman Black Lily's words were like a demon whispering, and after Barbara listened, her pupils began to tremble slightly, and a feeling of regret began to emerge in her heart. While Barbara was still in her thoughts, a female scream suddenly sounded in the distance, ah. Everyone in the coffee shop, including Barbara and Black Lily, looked out and saw a wooden boy figure less than a meter old, using the sharp drill in the palms of his hands to drill into the woman's temple. Blood gushed out like a fountain, and such a bloody scene made the people around them frighten their legs weak, and they looked at the assassination scene with horror on their faces. Gahahaha. The puppet kept laughing in the gushing blood. Obviously it was supposed to be an inanimate puppet, but the humane laughter looked very strange. Some people called the police and some fled, but none of them stepped forward to stop the doll from continuing to kill the innocent women, because they were all afraid of the puppet with life. Finally, many people were frightened by this bloody scene and quickly wanted to escape here. Suddenly, they felt a dark shadow appear in their position, and they looked up to see that it was a car flying in their direction. Bang! Innocent and unlucky passers-by just dodged and were crushed alive by the car. Thick scarlet blood flowed from under the car, staining the ground of the square. And the culprit who created this murder was a scrawny woman hiding in the shadows, and the long-haired woman did not intend to stop. I saw her raise her hand, and Jiang Li drove the knives on the dining table, and immediately flew towards some unlucky passers-by. The knife pierced the neck of the passerby accurately, and I don't know how many people have died in this murder. Seeing this, Barbara's eyes were cold, and a bat dart slipped out of her cuff, and quickly threw it in the direction of the doll. Oh! The doll immediately raised its hand after sensing it, and the drill bit in the palm of his hand collided with the bat dart, shooting out a spark of metal collision. There are no more people nearby. Basically the people who died on the ground are passers-by present, so Barbara's series of operations is only seen by Black Lily. Huh? The puppet tilted its head to look at the bat dart on the ground, and then raised its eyes to look at Barbara, its wooden lips trembling slightly. Batman? No, you're a woman, you're a Batgirl. Seeing that the situation was not good, Barbara immediately turned back to Black Lily and said, Madam, you are quick. But as soon as Barbara turned her head, there was no trace of the Black Lily, and she was relieved. It seemed that the lady had escaped. Damn, this is not the right place to expose. Well? What's going on? Barbara looked at the cameras around her, but found that the cameras were all sparkling, apparently scrapped due to external forces. Although she is very confused about this, it is very beneficial for her, at least not to expose her Batgirl identity. But the other party seems to have the advantage of many people, among which there should be the existence of superpowers. Barbara does not dare to be careless, and puts the special headphones in her pocket on her ears. And he pressed his finger on the headset and said, I'm Batgirl, and I need a helper. Barbara wanted to ask other members of the Bat family for help, but who knew that after the sound of rustling came out of the earphones, it was a woman's voice. Miss Barbara, don't come unharmed. This voice Barbara was very familiar. It was the Black Lily who had just sat with her and spoke. Are you? Who are you? Barbara was a little surprised at when the other party hacked into their Bat family's contact channel. We're not the time to say this, watch behind you. Barbara's face changed after hearing this, and without hesitation, she turned her head to the side first, and her body dodged to the side, only to see the drill on the doll's palm barely brushing her hair. The doll landed on the ground and tilted its head to look at Barbara. Huh? How was this evaded? Eyes on the back? It's so risky. If it hadn't been for the reminder from the woman in the headset, her head would have been drilled out by now. The ventriloquist's thin eyes stared at Barbara, and then she raised her hand, and a knife began to float in the air, the tip of which was aimed at the latter's neck. Phew! Immediately, Jiang Li drove the knife to Barbara's neck like a bullet. Barbara only saw a flash of cold light, and she didn't have time to dodge, because the ventriloquist was not in her line of sight, and this attack was a sneak attack. Bang! Accompanied by sudden gunfire. Oh! A blue energy bullet came out from the side, hit the knife and forcibly changed the flight trajectory of the knife, and plunged straight into the ground. In Black Lily's line of sight, Barbara and the puppet can be clearly seen, as well as the position of the belly talker in the dark, which is bright for her. No one can hide. The combat eyepiece of Black Lily's helmet slowly closed, and the muzzle of Black Lily's kiss was aimed at the belly talker who did not know the fact that he was about to die. The red crosshair had been aimed at the head of the ventriloquist, and the corners of the Black Lily's mouth rose to a beautiful arc. Sleep. Bang. Phew. The energy bullet flew towards the ventriloquist, quickly penetrating the entire head from the center of the eyebrow, and the bullet shot out from the hole in the back of the head along with scarlet blood. Plop. Before the ventriloquist could figure out what was happening, he was already a corpse that still had residual warmth. The puppet noticed the death of his partner and immediately made a shrill voice, Shauna. Although Barbara didn't know what was happening, the gunshot must have helped her, and then Barbara's eyes narrowed, and 2 special bat darts slipped out of her cuffs. Hurrah! 2 bat darts nailed the doll's hands to the car in the coffee shop, accompanied by the sound of dee-dee-dee-dee. Boo! The bat dart produces a violent explosion, and the flames drown the puppet in it, and Barbara will not be soft on non-humans like the doll. 3 generations of belly talker Shauna Belzer and her puppet Verdier were pronounced dead today. Barbara looked in the direction of the tall building where the gunshots were coming from, and there was no longer a figure there. Combined with the voice of Black Lily just now, Barbara can be sure that the owner of the gunshot is Black Lily, although I don't know why the other party helped her, but now it is still the most important thing to clean up the crime scene. Barbara took out her mobile phone, which was not a daily one, dialed the number of the Gotham Police Department, and slightly clamped her throat. I am the Batgirl, and there has been a murder here. After speaking, Barbara also left the scene. Episode 19. On the streets of Gotham, a mob in clown masks is wreaking havoc with weapons of all kinds, some with steel baseball bats, others with pistols or rifles. And their leader is a man with green hair in the middle and extremely white skin, a clown. Ha 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 ha, get rich, get rich. A thug waved a baseball bat in his hand, smashed the glass of a jewelry store, and frantically held the gold and silver jewelry inside. Sudden. The thugs raised their rifles and pistols and other thermal weapons, pouring bullets into the sky. Such crazy moves are like declaring that Gotham City will be theirs. Frightened passers-by kept running, afraid that their lives would be lost in the hands of these outlaws. But their leader, the Joker, was a little sullen, and he always felt that something was missing in his heart. Ah. The clown seemed to be unable to think of why, and his heart became more and more irritable, and he immediately snatched the rifle of the clown thug on the side. Sudden. The pitch-black muzzle was aimed at the running passers-by, frantically pouring bullets from the magazine. Many unlucky passers-by, due to a series of reasons such as slow running, were killed by ruthless clowns and bullets. Woohoo! The surrounding fanatical believers cheered when they saw the handsome appearance of their idols shooting passers-by. The clown full of freedom is the goal they should pursue, and the law is like a piece of in their eyes. The rifle's magazine had been emptied, and the black muzzle was steaming hot. Hurrah! Suddenly, 3 bat darts flew down from the sky, and immediately the bat darts spewed out thick white smoke, so that all the clown thugs around and the clown himself could not see the road clearly. Kahahaha, he's finally here. The Joker finally knows why he feels something is missing. It turns out that his most important character in the game, his rival Batman. Immediately, a black figure and a red figure fell in the white mist, raising their fists and constantly greeting the clown mobster's body. Batman and Robin, with their superb fighting skills and favorable venues, were knocked to the ground in 3 or 2 strokes like a clown thug like minions. Batman glanced at the corpses of passers-by on the ground, gritted his teeth and rushed to the Joker, grabbing the latter's collar and lifting the other party in the air. You bastard. Kahahaha, it's not over yet, Bat. Be careful, Batman. Suddenly, Batman heard Robin's anxious shout, and he quickly turned his head and saw a black shadow passing by. Batman had to let go of the Joker, block the sudden attack, and immediately knock him back several meters away. Batman glanced at his aching arm, and then looked up at the owner of the punch, the figure he was all too familiar with. That was Bane. A fierce look flashed in Bane's eyes. I've been waiting for you here for a long time, Batman. Batman's face showed a solemn look. Bane can be said to be his old rival, although he knows that the opponent's weakness is the venom tube behind it, but it will take some time. And the clown is already ready to escape. If he is released this time, I don't know how many people will die. And Robin, that is, Jason, saw that the Joker wanted to escape, and saw that Batman was being dragged by Bane, and suddenly felt that his performance opportunity had come. I'll go after him. Wait. Robin. Come back soon. Batman wants to get Jason back, because he knows that the mentally immature Jason will not be a match for the Joker. But Bane in front of him will not let him escape easily. Jason followed the Joker to a warehouse on the dock, and he looked around, but found no trace of the Joker. Hey, let him run away? Jason gritted his teeth and said, thinking that this time would be the best chance to catch the Joker. But just as he wanted to turn and leave, the door of the warehouse slammed and closed tightly. Jason immediately became alert. It seemed that the clown guy was still here. He immediately spoke, come out. Scraps, I'm going to beat you in the face. Ha ha ha. The clown's crazy laughter echoed in the warehouse, but he could only hear it and not see it. Bang bang. 2 bullets hit Jason's ankles and each of his ankles. Aya! Jason cried out in pain, and when he looked up, he saw a crowbar coming at him. Plop! Jason, who couldn't dodge, ate a crowbar, and red blood suddenly flowed from his nose. The clown came to him and looked at the red bird on the ground with an evil smile. Ha ha ha, remember not to chase deep next time, boy. After that, the clown beckoned, and 2 big men wearing clown masks came to Jason's side and tied the latter's hands and feet together. You can leave, let me play games with this child. Kahaha, it's just the 2 of us here. The clown waved the crowbar in his hand. How about we do a practical experiment? See if the left side hurts more, or the right side hurts more. Is it easier to hit with your left hand, or is it easier to hit with your right hand? The crowbar hit Jason's body irregularly, and the latter was already bleeding from his head, with countless bruises on his body, and an unknown number of broken bones inside. The Joker grabbed Jason's hair and lifted him up to look at himself. Is there anything else you want to say? Bah. Jason spat a mouthful of blood on the Joker's face. He and this scum had nothing to say, only one sentence: fuck you. Hearing this, the clown rarely looked a little ugly, and continued to pick up the crowbar and hit Jason's body. I don't know how long it took. The clown stopped beating and said, oh yes, if you see a bat, remember to say hello to him for me. After the clown adjusted the time bomb that was enough to blow up the entire warehouse, he prepared to leave, grinning, although it is unlikely, kahahaha. After the Joker left, Jason slowly opened his tired eyes and glanced at the ticking time bomb that was counting down, and he had no doubt that it was a fake ticking time bomb. He's dying. Jason, your biggest flaw is that you are too impulsive, which can put you in a very dangerous situation. Recalling what Jiang Li had said to him when he was practicing with him at that time, he smiled self-deprecatingly. Sorry, leave, I failed your teachings. He can't bear you, he can't bear Dick, he can't bear Jiang Li, who is also a teacher and friend, and the most reluctant is the Bruce who taught him. He is like his father. DDDDD, boo. Episode 20. The Death Shooter came to the interior of the parking lot where the vehicle was parked, and it was dark all around, only the one-eyed combat eyepiece on his eye was the only light. Suddenly, the Death Shooter felt something and suddenly turned around and aimed the silenced pistol gauntlet on his wrist there. But there was no one there, but a black crow stood on top of the vehicle, and the crow's beast eyes reflected the figure of the Death Shooter. Where did that guy run? The Death Shooter frowned. Since the man entered the parking building, it was as if the world had evaporated. But thinking about it carefully, the other party was actually able to directly block his bullets, and it was the first time he had encountered this situation as a professional killer for so many years. I don't know where the other party came from. Dumb. The crow began to shout, which made the Death Shooter's heart more and more irritated. Shut up, Lao Tzu. Bang. The Death Shooter broke the gun, and the bullet went towards the crow. Suddenly, something strange happened. The bullet hit the crow's body solidly, but the crow turned into a black fog and disappeared the moment it touched the bullet, leaving only a black feather on the roof of the car. This. The Death Shooter was taken aback, which made him tense up. I know you're here. The Death Shooter was very sure that the weird scene just now was Jiang Li's masterpiece, and the former looked around vigilantly, but never found a trace of the latter. Huh? In the next second, the lights on the entire floor of the parking lot suddenly turned on, and one by one began to light up in order. Until the last light came on, shining on a man wearing a black trench coat and a Western-style cowboy hat, that is, Jiang Li, who had a strange whereabouts. Jiang Li slowly raised his head, his eyes under the cowboy hat full of confidence, and his gaze was on some Death Shooters who were beginning to get angry. Humph, pretend to be a ghost. After the Death Shooter found the target, he snorted coldly and launched an attack towards Jiang Li, raising the silenced pistol gauntlet and firing at the latter. Bang! Remote block. Oh. Sure enough, as expected, this bullet was easily blocked by Jiang Li. Gee. The Death Shooter saw that his bullet was blocked again, and he was a little dissatisfied, and sure enough, it was like this again, but he would not be lucky again. The next moment, the Death Shooter took out the rifle behind him, raised the muzzle, and fired at Jiang Li with precision. Suddenly. If it were someone else, there is no doubt that every bullet of the Death Shooter will hit him accurately. But who is Jiang Li? As a roaming gunman, he can say that no one knows firearms better than him, not even Death Shooters known for their marksmanship and accuracy. Phew. As Jiang Li's figure moved, it turned into a black shadow, only hearing a sound of breaking through the air, but it was difficult for the naked eye to catch his figure. I saw countless bullets passing by Jiang Li's ears, only a trace away from the hit, and some bullets Jiang Li resisted using the long-range parrying skill. What? The Death Shooter saw that his attack was either empty or blocked, and he was a little doubtful that his marksmanship had regressed. If this gets out, and his Death Shooter, known for his accuracy and marksmanship, is evaded and blocked by an unknown man with his bizarre ability, then he will not have to mix in this road in the future. Jiang Li smiled slightly when he saw this, invincible frame, boy. But the next second, something even more bizarre happened. I don't know if there was a problem with the Death Shooter's eyes, and black feathers kept popping out of Jiang Li's side. And the body becomes more blurry, like the effect achieved by a certain amount of speed. The corridor that was originally hundreds of meters apart has been shortened to a distance of only 100 meters. Abominable. I really didn't expect that he would also have such a day as a dead shooter, so he had to give up using firearms and then run towards Jiang Qiao. He wanted to have an advantage in hand-to-hand combat, but he was wrong. Soon, they were only a few steps away, and the Death Shooter raised his fist and shot towards Jiang Li. Jiang Li was not in trouble, and also raised his fist to collide with the Death Shooter's fist. Click. The crisp sound of the Death Shooter's hand was obviously shattered alive by Jiang Li. This guy's strength is so big. At this time, the Death Shooter realized that his decision to fight hand-to-hand was wrong, and the best way should be to escape, saving his life. But Jiang Li didn't give him a chance, and an elbow hit the opponent in the face, and the Death Shooter only felt a strong dizziness, and his head smashed towards the vehicle on the side. Bang! The Death Shooter's head slammed into the headlights of the front of the car, and the glass of the headlights shattered, causing the vehicle to keep flashing yellow lights and screaming. At this time, his head was already bleeding, and the strong pain made the Death Shooter grit his teeth, constantly moving his body on the ground, and said while moving away from Jiang Li, "Wait. I can give you money, please let me go this time, I will not be an enemy with you in the future." The Death Shooter takes off his hood and reveals his dark, somewhat like the face of Smith, an actor in a previous life and known as the North American Turtle Man. He did not hesitate to beg for mercy, after all, there was no need to pay for his life for a sum of money. Jiang Li didn't say much, but directly turned around and left, which gave the Death Shooter the illusion that the other party chose to let him go. The Death Shooter sneered in his heart, sure enough, like those superheroes, he often spared his enemies. He secretly raised his hand and prepared to launch an attack on Jiang Li, but what he didn't know was that his every move was expected by Jiang Li. The reason why Jiang Li turned around and left was just to give himself a perfect ending. After waiting for a certain distance, I saw Jiang Li slowly turn around, sideways to face the Death Shooter, and the muzzle of the white ivory in his hand was already aimed at the latter. The corners of his mouth smiled slightly, and the only sentence in the whole process was said, "Jackpot, jackpot." Bang! The finishing bullet hit the Death Shooter's brain, and the Death Shooter, whose eyes were still full of surprise, fell weakly on the wall and declared dead. Episode 21. After Jiang Li heard the voice of the system, this time he was a little dissatisfied with the reward of the system. It can be said that firearms mastery and marksmanship mastery are not what he wants, and now he has the pistol and marksmanship proficiency that roams the gunner's own. There is no need for anything else at all. The next second, he heard a system message again that broke his defense. Sign into 3 generations of belly talkers, reward never enough paper drawers. NMD, although the 3 generations of belly talkers are not the most famous generation, but the good villains are also a kind of superpowers, just give this thing? Jiang Li has not had contact with 3 generations of belly talkers, so there is only one possibility of Black Lily. Alas, forget it, this time it will not be calculated with your system. Just as Jiang Li wanted to leave, his eyes saw a beautiful woman sitting by the guardrail. She is wearing a very iconic black tights, she is the famous phantom thief in Gotham, Catwoman Selina Kyle. The marksmanship is good, you can actually solve the Death Shooter, it seems that you are a peerless master who appeared out of nowhere. She watched the battle from the sidelines the whole time, originally she wanted to help, so that the man she was interested in owed her a favor. Who knew that the other party actually pressed the Death Shooter to fight the whole time, although there was no favor to sell, but it made her more interested in the other party. I can't wait to get to know it all over again. Madam, you have been watching the battle, and it makes me a little sad that you don't help. Jiang Li smiled slightly, and said with some flowery mouth, also, ma'am, you owe me a very precious thing, when do you plan to give it? Hearing this, Selina was slightly stunned, it turned out that the other party had recognized her true identity. Selina got down from the guardrail and walked to Jiang Li's body, who only smelled a very sweet smell, which was pleasant. How did you recognize me? Selina leaned close to Jiang Li and whispered in front of his face. Would the lady believe me if I said that your beautiful figure has been imprinted in my heart and occupied a place in my heart? Hearing this, Selina smiled charmingly, raised her jade hand and put it on Jiang Li's face, deliberately said in an extremely affectionate tone, what if your words move my heart? Jiang Li gently grabbed Selina's jade hand on the side of his face, and smiled softly, am I to be held responsible? The game between the two masters ended with Selina's heartbeat. Selina only found it extremely funny, in terms of language, she had never been so defeated. In the next second, she stood on tiptoe, and the flaming red lips kissed Jiang Li's mouth, and soon after the lips parted, she stepped forward to get close to Jiang Li. Jiang Li felt a softness in his chest, and then heard Selina whisper in her ear, this is not the most precious, this is just a deposit. This made Jiang Li a little stunned, and then he saw Selena jump off the guardrail and leave here. This woman, run after prodding. Huh? Just as Jiang Li was reminiscing, he suddenly frowned, and he felt a trace of some discomfort. He looked up in the distance, and his eagle-like eyes saw the small mushroom cloud from the explosion on the dock in the distance. It seems that something is happening there. Jiang Li returned to Barbara's side, and saw that Barbara was also looking for him, and the other party was immediately relieved after seeing him. Leave, are you alright? There appears to have been more than one attack. It's okay, what about Black Lily? Jiang Li never saw Black Lily walking with Barbara, so he asked curiously. Barbara hesitated for a while. In her eyes, Jiang Li didn't seem to know the identity of Black Lily, and Black Lily's identity seemed to be as secret as her. So she decided to be a good person for once. She has left for something. Huh? Does it turn out that her name is Black Lily? Ordinary people really think that it will be a very strange name, and Black Lily has abandoned its previous name and will call herself Black Lily in the future. Dee. Suddenly, the Bat family-specific communication machine in Barbara's pocket sounded. Barbara took it out and saw that it was a public channel sent by Batman, which means that the entire Bat family will hear this information at present. She did not shy away from Jiang Li, and directly put it to her ear to answer, I am Barbara, is there something wrong? But in the next second, her pupils contracted slightly. Apparently she heard the news that shocked her. Barbara told Jiang Li the news of Jason's death, and the latter was speechless and silent when he heard it, and then sighed. Jason Todd is the second-generation Robin, and Jiang Li witnessed him change from an orphan to the second young master of the Wayne family, from a little fart boy who stole wheels to Robin, Batman's assistant. It can be said that Jason is one of Jiang Li's few friends in Gotham. Let's go to his funeral. Later, Jiang Li and Barbara came to Wayne Manor, and at this time, all the members of the Bat family in Wayne Manor had arrived. Nightwing Dick Grayson, Butler, Afu, Lucius Fox, an important person in charge of logistics such as Batmobile. Dick saw the arrival of the two and stepped forward to say hello. There is still Barbara, it has been a long time. Dick Grayson, the original Robin, was Batman's first assistant, but because he couldn't stand Batman's various restrictions, he chose to fly solo and became Nightwing. He is currently fighting against evil in the city of Bridhaven. So he rarely saw other people as far away as Gotham. I'm sorry I'm not there. If I had, I might have been able to prevent this tragedy from happening. Dick also witnessed Jason's growth, which can be said to be like his brother, and sadness and self-blame are inevitable. Jiang Li glanced at Dick, who blamed himself for no reason, and looked at Bruce, who was already blaming himself, and immediately felt that this adoptive father and son were really similar. You guys are really alike. What do you mean? Jiang Li did not answer Dick's doubts, but came to Jason's grave, and honestly said that there was sadness, because this was a real death. But knowing the world line, Jason will be resurrected in the future, and long before he is buried, Jason's body has been transferred by Bruce's father-in-law, the leader of the League of Assassins, known as the Head of the Devil. Rishoku will resurrect Jason and cultivate the latter again, allowing him to grow into the future anti-hero Red Hood. Episode 22. 3 months later, the weather was snowy winter. The clown escapes, the scarecrow does not appear, and Gotham City ushers in a short and peaceful 3 months. But it's only temporary, and if you ignore the daily police car gangster chase, then Gotham is indeed peaceful. This is located in the east side of Gotham City, which is called Park Street, but there is an alley where since the Waynes were killed here, there is one more famous place, Crime Alley. A beautiful and cute girl with blonde hair and a trench coat passed by Crime Alley. She stopped and looked into the alley with curious eyes. After all, anyone in Gotham knows the heavy news of the murder of the Waynes. After a moment of hesitation, the girl opened her small mouth and exhaled a breath of hot air on her hands, so that her hands would not be so cold. Later, she walked into Crime Alley, intending to take a closer look at this famous location in Gotham. But what she didn't know was that someone was eyeing her, and a thief-eyed man first glanced left and right, and after finding that no one paid attention to him, he quietly walked into the Crime Alley and followed the girl. And the girl has no idea that she is in a dangerous situation, a life-threatening situation. If that hadn't happened, would Wayne's influence have made Gotham better? The girl muttered with some curiosity that Wayne's successive heads were famous monopoly and philanthropists, who played a major role in the construction of Gotham City. In her heart, maybe without this happening, the Wayne Group will build Gotham City better. Suddenly, she heard footsteps behind her, and she quickly turned to look, only to see the man behind her take out a pistol from his pocket and point it at her. Hand over the valuable things. The girl suddenly panicked in her heart. This is the first time she has seen such a scene. She did not expect that she was so close to the edge of death now. She quickly took out her wallet and mobile phone from her pocket and took out all the valuable things. But the man seemed to think something was wrong. He glanced left and right, smiled evilly at the girl and said, "This is where those two damn rich people died. Do you want to try it too?" As soon as these words came out, the girl's pupils contracted, her feet began to tremble uncontrollably, and her body kept retreating. This feeling of powerlessness made it difficult for her to breathe, and then she slowly closed her eyes as if resigned to her fate. Don't give up your life so quickly. Suddenly there was a gentle magnetic male voice in her ears, and she looked in the direction where the voice came from, and a dark shadow passed by her. The speed was so fast that the gangster man did not react, and was punched on the jaw by Jiang Li, all the teeth in his mouth shattered, and his figure flew out backwards in a parabola. That figure was imprinted in the girl's mind, and this mark was remembered for a lifetime. When Jiang Li turned around, the girl's heart trembled. To be honest, this is the best-looking face she has seen since she was a child, completely grown on her aesthetics. How dare you, a girl, walk into the alley alone on such a late day? This is a dangerous thing. Jiang Li stepped forward and pinched the bridge of the girl's nose, causing the girl to suddenly blush, pouting and looking at Jiang Li with dissatisfaction. Jiang Li smiled slightly. Sure enough, he still likes to tease cute girls, and running away after prodding is to make people feel happy. Do you need me to take you home? The girl shook her head. Jiang Li thought that the other party had some vigilance towards him as a strange man, but this was normal. Okay then, be careful yourself. Then Jiang Li turned around and prepared to leave, but as soon as he turned around, the girl trotted in front of the former, and blocked his way with open arms. At this time, Jiang Li was confused by the girl. We send you home, you don't want to, then we are ready to leave, what do you mean? Girl, if you plan to repay me, then you don't have to. No, although the reward is okay. Wrong. I want you to teach me how to become a master like you. The face that was red because of the cold and the look of incomparable nervousness made it very cute. Jiang Li suddenly realized that he was planning to worship the teacher, although the girl was very cute and her blonde hair was also very charming, but he was not interested in accepting apprentices. Sorry, I'm not going to take students, you have to find another home. After speaking, Jiang Li directly missed the girl's side, and the girl was suddenly anxious, and an idea immediately popped up in her mind, and then turned around and hugged Jiang Li's waist without hesitation. Promise me, and I'll let you go. Hearing this, Jiang Li felt that he was a good-looking scoundrel, and sighed helplessly. Well, if you can withstand what happens next, then I promise you? When the girl heard this, her eyes instantly shone with a shining light, and she said very excitedly, is this true? Of course. Jiang Li smiled slightly, holding the girl's waist with one hand, making the girl's face turn red when she had never touched a man. And Jiang Li's other hand was raised, and the hook-lock gun in his hand was firmly hooked towards the edge of the roof in the sky, and then quickly pulled the two upwards. While seeing that she was getting farther and farther away from the ground, the girl suddenly let out a scream, and then thought of what she had promised Jiang Li, so she obediently closed her mouth. Jiang Li couldn't help but laugh when he looked at the girl's cute appearance. By the way, I still don't know your name? My name is Stephanie Brown. Episode 23, Stephanie Brown. Jiang Li is very familiar with this name, and she will also be a member of the superhero in the future, mainly codenamed Spoiler, because she often messes with the crimes of her father's clue master. At the same time, in the original world line, it will be the girlfriend of 3 generations of Robin Tim Drake, but Tim was unfortunately killed by Warner Dog, turned into a male copper and came out. All in all, also a poor girl. Why are you looking at me like that? After the two landed on the rooftop, Stephanie saw Jiang Li looking at her with a look akin to pity. This made Stephanie confused, with a cute tilted head full of question marks. Nothing, congratulations on meeting my request. Originally, he planned to put her on the rooftop and run, but since Jiang Li knew the identity of the other party, then he would not let his reward fly away. Also let the other party stay away from Tim's stinky boy who doesn't have long eyes, and at the same time scold Warner Dog in his heart for 10 seconds. Really? Awesome. Stephanie jumped happily in place, hugged Jiang Li excitedly, and then realized that there was something wrong with her behavior. With a red face, he quickly let go of Jiang Li. I'm sorry, I was a little too excited just now. It's okay, I'm not interested in little brats. In fact, Stephanie is an adult, and her figure has definitely reached the first-class level in Jiang Yuan. Who do you say is a brat? Stephanie blushed, puffed out her cheeks, and raised her small fist to keep pounding Jiang Li's body. Whoever is angry is a brat. Me off. Stand and don't run. The two are like friends who have a good relationship, chasing and fighting on the rooftop. After that, Jiang Li told Stephanie the address of his home so that she could go to him when she was ready. By the way, in the past 3 months, Jiang Li bought a manor as his new home, so he would not be squeezed into a small apartment room, and no one would disturb him. Oops, I almost forgot. Jiang Li slapped his forehead. He came out this time for a purpose. Since he had just moved to a new house, many supplies needed to be replenished, but this point the mall was closed. He looked at the watch on his wrist, and sure enough, it was too late. After thinking about being at home, determined to transform her new home into the warmest love nest in the world, Jiang Li shook his head helplessly, or think about how to compensate the other party. At this time, Jiang Li passed by a flower shop. Huh? There's a florist here? Give Harley a bouquet of roses as compensation. Jiang Li, who thought so, walked into the flower shop. Jingle bell. As Jiang Li entered the door, the bell on the door rang. The inside of the flower shop is like a dream. The walls and ceiling are full of entangled vines, and all kinds of flowers are filled with the smell of flowers. Welcome. A cold voice sounded. Jiang Li followed the voice and saw a woman with bright red hair standing at the counter. She was wearing a white coat, and she was carefully watering the potted plant. When Jiang Li came to her, she raised her pretty face, and both saw each other's faces, and they were both amazed by each other's faces. I don't know why, Jiang Li always felt that the woman in front of him was very familiar, loved plants and red hair. Jiang Li didn't think about it for a while. Do you need anything? Perhaps the super charm played a role, and a smile appeared on her cold face, which even surprised herself. I need a bouquet of roses. She nodded, quickly packed a bouquet of roses and handed it to Jiang Li, and said in an extremely serious tone, remember not to spoil them, and raise them when you get home, got it? Don't worry, I will. Jiang Li was a little speechless about this tone was like entrusting his daughter to him. After that, Jiang Li chatted with her for a while, and the conversation was quite harmonious, and just when Jiang Li was about to leave at the checkout, the robber with a sack rushed into the store. Don't move. Hand over all the money. The robber pointed a gun at Jiang Li and the red-haired woman, and the magic thing was that the expressions of the two men were too flat. Jiang Li and the red-haired woman were a little surprised by each other's reactions, only the robber was treated like a clown. I'm talking to you. The robbers only saw the two people looking at each other and ignored him, which made him angry. At this time, Jiang Li continued to ignore the gangsters, and he had roughly guessed who the red-haired woman was, that is, one of Gotham's famous villains, Poison Ivy Pamela Isley. And the poison ivy that will open the flower shop seems to be the anti-hero setting that is both good and evil. I'm talking to you, are you deaf and can't hear? Touch. The gangster lost control of his emotions and slapped the potted plant next to him on the ground, and the potted plant was directly broken. Someone is going to die. Jiang Li now knew that someone was going to be unlucky, because someone who cherished plants extremely was already angry. Sure enough, the red hair of Poison Ivy Pamela next to her had slowly fluttered, and anger appeared on her face. It seemed that the gangster's behavior really angered her. As the owner's mood changed, the surrounding vines began to lengthen, directly entangled the gangster's limbs. Click. A crisp sound sounded on the gangster, and it was obvious that the bones of the limbs were twisted alive. As for why he didn't shout out, because the vine had sealed the gangster's mouth, I saw that the vine wrapped the gangster's whole body, like a mummy, pulling him up to the ceiling. What will happen to him? Jiang Li asked curiously. Be the nourishment of my children. Pamela then realized that the handsome man in front of her didn't seem to be afraid of her, and she seemed too plain about everything just now. Aren't you afraid of me? To be honest, just now Pamela knew that she had exposed her identity. This flower shop had to close not long after it opened, and she had not opened a dull business in Gotham. She didn't want to hurt Jiang Li, even if the other party knew her identity, although it was troublesome to open a different place, but there was nothing to do. But now the other party doesn't seem to be afraid of her. Such a beautiful lady really can't be afraid. If it were another man, Pamela would only think that the other party was fancying her beauty, but Jiang Li didn't hate it, on the contrary, because of the blessing of super charm. She liked Jiang Li's sweet words. It's time for me to leave, goodbye, beautiful Ms. Pamela. Jiang Li still likes the rule of running after prodding. Oh, welcome next time. How does he know my name? A ridiculous thought came to mind, but then Pamela thought of something, and glanced at the sign hanging on her white coat, which was her botanist's name tag, and there was her name written on it. What's wrong with me? She even had some illusions that she would have in her life. Episode 24, Jiang left the Harley motorcycle and returned to his lavish estate, where he saw Harley standing in the doorway waiting for him. Harley glanced at the watch on her wrist, hugged her chest, and said, "Time out, where are you fooling around again?" Jiang Li came to Harley and deliberately put the rose behind him. Don't be in a hurry to get angry first, see what I bought you? A bouquet of roses appeared in front of Harley's eyes, instantly breaking Harley's girlish heart, and once again changed back to the love brain of Harley Quinn. You're so good, leave. After Harley kissed Jiang Li on the face, she walked into the room with a rose in her arms, completely forgetting that Jiang Li had not bought supplies and came back. Jingle bell, the mobile phone in his pocket rang, and Jiang Li took it out to see that it was Bruce calling. Is there something going on? Bruce, leave, there's a party going on here at Wayne Mansion. We're celebrating the election of the new mayor. Do you come sometimes? Anyway, there was nothing to do. Jiang Li simply agreed to Bruce's invitation and prepared to go to Wayne Mansion for a banquet. Jiang Li, dressed in a suit, came to Wayne Mansion, and the party gathered famous nobles and high-ranking figures in Gotham. At this time, Jiang Li saw a familiar figure, and he smiled slightly and walked over. Selina, who was wearing a black dress, was drinking red wine, and then she heard Jiang Li's voice, "Long time no see, ma'am. It seems that we can meet again, what a great fate." She raised her charming eyes, the corners of her mouth raised a charming arc, and her flaming red lips said lightly, "It is indeed fate, come and accompany me to drink the bar." After speaking, Selina also patted the seat next to her. Jiang Li was naturally respectful and obedient. "So, ma'am, why are you here?" It can be said that Selina is not an upper-class person in Gotham City, nor is she a rich man who is rich enough to bleed, and the probability of being invited is extremely small. I came by myself, just find a hapless bastard and ask for an invitation." This important word, Jiang Li, can be understood as stealing words. After all, this is something that only Catwoman with small hands is not very clean can do, and it is also a pity for the unlucky bastard who was stolen the invitation. Everyone here is rich, and now I'm making a lot of money. After that, Selina didn't know where to take out a few gemstones of different colors, as well as several necklaces and watches that were obviously extremely valuable. Secretly showed Jiang Li, and then in the sight that only Jiang Li could see, he put those precious things into his big heart. The corners of Jiang Li's mouth rose slightly, and he drank all the red wine in his hand, and then stepped forward to hold Selina's beautiful face and kissed her gently. Selina did not resist Jiang Li's behavior in the slightest, on the contrary, she still had some pleasure in her heart. Everyone at the party was attracted by the scene of the talented beauty, and no one dared to applaud and disturb this beautiful scene. The celebration party became their two-person world. Bruce shook his head helplessly and said with a smile. And Afu on the side looked at Jiang Li and Selina very enviously. As Bruce's hair, Jiang Li can be said to have grown up with his own eyes. And now Jiang Li seems to have a deep relationship with that woman, and it is possible to get married and have children in the future. Fu secretly glanced at Bruce, and didn't know when his young master would be able to find a woman to marry and have children. Although there is Master Dick and Master Jason, he still hopes that the Wayne family has its own bloodline, and it seems that the future of the Wayne family is dark. Not long before the party. Somewhere in Gotham City. In a secret room, a group of people wearing owl masks sit there eating a candlelit dinner but not eating, and they talked about their main point. There have been more and more bugs in Gotham recently. They seem to have forgotten who is the ruler of Gotham, who is the most powerful person in Gotham. A leader-like person sat in the middle of the square table, listening to the voice. She was an elderly woman. The voice of a middle-aged man. In recent days, a bunch of vigilantes who think they can stand on the law have inexplicably poured out, and they don't pay attention to the court at all. The voice of a young woman with a somewhat irritable tone. It seems that we have to teach them some lessons, let them sober up. Who is the arbiter of Gotham? Seconded. Times N. Many members of the Owl Court agreed with the leader's proposal, because they were arrogant Owl Court and considered themselves the supreme ruler of Gotham. The appearance of Jiang Li and Batman, as well as the appearance of Robin of Nightwing and Batgirl, make them feel that their status has been provoked. The elderly woman leader saw the members express their opinions, and she then said, "If this is the case, then send our claws and eradicate all those who rebel against us. Watch out for Owl Courts and keep an eye on your travels. Peek into Gotham City in the shadows, hidden in a low-walled attic. He lives in the house with him, and he also exists in the bed and in bed. One Mo mentions his name, and his claws will find your head." No one knew that tonight, Gotham's bloodshed struck again, getting closer and closer to Gotham City. Episode 25. At the party, Jiang Li was dancing with Selina, the former's hand on the latter's delicate waist, and the latter's hand around the former's neck. The eyes of both sides reflected each other's figures, and Selina's beautiful smile appeared on her face, and she said to Jiang Li, "Why are you here? Did you deliberately inquire about my whereabouts? That's a great injustice, ma'am. I was able to be here because the owner of this place announced that Ruth Wayne was my haircut. Don't be a lady, my name is Selina Kyle. I didn't expect you to meet the world's famous billionaires. My name is Jiang Li." At this moment, they can be regarded as truly knowing each other, and in the past, only Selina did not know each other's names. Jiang Li glanced left and right, then turned his head to Selina and said, "Let's go out for a walk, it's too boring to stay here." Selina took Jiang Li's arm, left the party just like that, left Wayne Mansion, and the two walked on the street that was no longer occupied. Since it was a snowy winter, Selina was dressed very thinly, and Jiang Li was very gentlemanly and draped the cotton clothes on the motorcycle over Selina. Selina smiled sweetly at this. The two did not look like friends who had known each other for a short time, but like lovers who were in love. Huh? Suddenly, Jiang Li felt something. He suddenly looked up, but there was nothing on the roof, but Jiang Li did not feel that something was wrong with his feelings. Instead, he trusted his instincts so much that it felt like several dangerous guys were staring at them. The profound hiding skills must be some capable masters, and with such a technique, Gotham seems to have only the Death Shooter he has killed, and the death knell that has not appeared. And the League of Assassins, which specializes in the production of professional killers, and the Owl Court, the latter two are more likely. He doesn't have a deep intersection with the League of Assassins, so the Owl Court is the most likely, because they will get rid of the thorn in their side. Leave, what's wrong with you? Selina on the side saw Jiang Li frowning, and she asked suspiciously. Jiang Li turned his head and said with a smile, "It's nothing, just heard some strange sounds." Then, Jiang Li continued to walk down the street with his arm around Selina's shoulders, still with a smile on his face that was talking to the latter, but his nerves were always on guard. Suddenly, a cold light flashed, Jiang Li's head tilted back slightly, and a dagger flew in front of his eyes, and then plunged straight into the ground. Soon, 3 black shadows fell in the air, all of them wearing black tights, dressed like humanoid owls, and their characteristics were undoubtedly the humanoid weapons of Gotham's villain organization Owl Court, Claws. Who are they? Selina has not seen the appearance of Claw. She knows something about the villains in Gotham, but Claw is the first time she has seen it. Not a good person anyway. Anyway, in Jiang Li's eyes, a brand new reward has been sent to the door, and there is a chance to sign in the Owl's lair. Jiang Li, Selina Kyle. The Owl Court will sentence you to death. After that, the 3 Claws rushed towards Jiang Li and Selina in unison, using different weapons. Some were daggers, some were double knives, and some were barehanded. Take care of yourself, Selina. Jiang Li handed the white ivory to Selina, and Selina took it without hesitation. Oh, I'm not a vase. Selina said with a slight smile, and in the next second she was paired with the female Claw. And the river is away from this side. Sharp Claw number 1 waved his arms, and the 2 knives in his hand kept slashing at Jiang Li, and all the attacks were easily dodged by Jiang Li. Touch. Jiang Li's eyes froze, seized the opportunity, clenched his right hand into a fist and slammed into the face of Sharp Claw number 1, and suddenly the latter's figure flew backwards, and the whole person slammed into the glass door of the clothing store on the side. Sign into the Claw, reward the domineering. Listening to the sound of the system, the corners of Jiang Li's mouth rose, and then his head tilted to the side, dodging the dagger that sneaked up from behind. Seeing that the sneak attack failed, Sharp Claw number 2 could only hold 2 daggers and rushed towards Jiang Li, obviously having lessons from the past, but still rushed over stupidly. Sure enough, these killers like the living dead have no intelligence to speak of, and they don't seem to die in order to complete the task. Jiang Li dodged his head again, dodging the dagger that Sharp Claw number 2 stabbed over, and then the former grabbed the latter's wrist with lightning speed. Click. A crisp voice sounded. AAA, although these killers are resurrected weapons of the living dead, they still have pain. Bang. Immediately, Jiang Li kicked directly in the abdomen of Sharp Claw number 2, kicked the other party several meters away, and slammed into the fire hydrant, and the fire hydrant was broken and sprayed out of clear water. The next moment, Jiang Li shot Sharp Claw number 2 in the head, saving his life. Although Sharp Claw can be said to be an immortal body, he relies on a synthetic called electrum, and if the supply is cut off, it will only become a cold corpse. Whether it will be resurrected depends entirely on whether the Owl Court will recycle the body and then supply the electrum synthetics again. Episode 26. Jiang Li looked at Sharp Claw number 1 who was shot by him, but Sharp Claw 1 had already run without hesitation, flying between the roofs. The reason why Claw fled was not because he was afraid of death, but because their purpose was originally to test Jiang Li's strength. Somebody has to go back and report. On the other side, Selina fought back and forth with the female Claw, and Jiang Li shot 2 shots at the latter's ankles, and the latter fell to the ground with a plop for a while. Jiang Li stepped forward and stepped on the other party's hands, grabbed her head with one hand, and let the other party look directly at him. Tell me, what is your purpose? You touch something you shouldn't, we will take back Gotham City that belongs to us, and you all have to die. Hearing this, Jiang Li's eyes were cold, and he raised the ebony and fired a shot at the head of the female Claw, and with a bang, the life of the female Claw ended. He thought about it carefully, he only remembered some rough about the plot of the comics in his previous life, and it stands to reason that the appearance time of the Owl Court and Claw was when all the Bat families had already appeared. But now that the Red Hood has not come out, this group of villains who think they are the masters of Gotham actually appeared in advance. It seems that his butterfly still has some effect. Selina stepped forward, raised her jade hand on Jiang Li's back, and asked softly, what does this mean by taking back Gotham City, which belongs to them? Jiang Li then explained to Selina the general information about the Owl Court. I didn't expect that the nursery rhyme stories from my childhood were actually true, and the Owl Court was real. Selina's eyes looked at Jiang Li and continued, and I heard from you, their members are all famous nobles from Gotham City, if they want to control Gotham. Selina didn't say the next words, but Jiang Li also knew what she wanted to say, which was also his conclusion. The most direct and easy way for those members of the Owl Court to wrest power from the high level of Gotham City is to kill them all and make up for themselves or their family members. Among their targets is Bruce Wayne, who is the head of the Wayne family. Now it seems that these people who are a bit like vigilantes are also one of their targets, so Batgirl will also be their target. Selina, come and stay at my house for a few days. Since Selina was also the target of the other party, Jiang Li did not intend to let her face the assassination of the Claws alone. There are still a lot of traps in his house, and there are professional killers like Black Lily, and he plans to let Barbara live in it later, so that they can take care of each other. And Barbara's father, Sheriff Gordon, he is not worried, because it seems that he was not attacked in the original work. After all, even the sheriff has to obey the above. Oh, are you going to attack me so soon? Although Selina knew that the other party was planning to protect her, she couldn't help but joke. Jiang Li gently patted Selina's fingers that kept poking her chest without anger. Don't make trouble, I'm serious. Cut, not interesting. 3 days have passed, and Jiang Li does not know the details of the whole plot, and does not know the location of the Owl Court, so he is currently staying at home. And this problem needs to be solved by relevant people. Let Bruce investigate the Owl Court, and then he can prostitute the intelligence for nothing. Jiang Li took Selina back to his home, and although he received hostility from Harley, he finally moved in smoothly, and Barbara did the same. However, there was not too much hostility towards Stephanie, who came to be a student, and Harley kept asking the other party to call her master and the like, but Stephanie seemed reluctant. Phew, it's been really hard these 3 days. Jiang Li sat on the sofa, wiped his sweatless forehead with the back of his hand, and said. In his eyes, the family can be said to be equivalent to the romance of the Three Kingdoms, a three-legged situation, Barbara and Harley and Selina. Barbara and Harley were hostile to the other two, but Selina kept smiling, seemingly not showing any interest in them. As for Black Lily, her status is only a subordinate, and she herself is equally not interested in these. Stephanie on the side looked at Jiang Li with an expression like a scumbag, and she spoke, you really have the face to say, if you don't provoke them every day, as for competing for favor like a fighting drama in the Chonghua Palace. Jiang Li raised a finger, poked Stephanie's fair and delicate little face, and said with a half squint, leave the others alone, you are not qualified to say me, because I am your teacher and you are my student. Cut. Stephanie knew best what she knew best, and when she thought of the relationship between her and Jiang Li, she suddenly felt a trace of unhappiness, as if it was a natural disadvantage. She tilted her head and drank the Coke in her hand, pretending to watch the TV in front of her. And the other side at this time. Many members of the Owl Court, all wearing masks, all look at Batman on the screen, who has entered the maze of his design. He's going to die here. A middle-aged man said confidently. Another little girl, holding a toy furry bear, said something inconsistent with her age, we're going to torture him and don't let him die too easily. Young woman, of course, we will record his desperate face and hang it on the wall of pictures of people who dare to be our enemies and eventually die of despair. A young man, although we have lost 2 claws, it will have no impact on our Owl Night tonight, and after tonight will be the day when our Owl Court really takes power. Episode 27, in the ring inside the training room. Wearing a sports vest and sports tights, with a ponytail on her head, Stephanie is training against Jiang Li. Faster, faster. Jiang Li dodged Stephanie's attack the whole time, which made Stephanie sweat, and after several days of training, the latter's flat lower abdomen had faintly traces of the vest line. Stephanie used all the moves Jiang Li had taught her, but the other party was like a nimble cat and could never touch him. Since Stephanie had begun to lose her strength and her body's speed began to slow down, Jiang Li seized the opportunity and swept her legs at the former's legs, and Stephanie fell directly to the ground. Stephanie lay on the ground panting, sweat covering her forehead, neck, and fair abdomen. Jiang Li grabbed a towel and draped it over Stephanie's body. Today's training is here. He saw Stephanie looking at him with a pair of resentful eyes, as if bullied by him, and he continued, don't look at me like that, this is for you. Subsequently, Jiang Li did not care about Stephanie, who was lying on the ground and was puffing up, and went downstairs by himself. After waiting downstairs, he heard the ringing of the mobile phone in his pocket, and Jiang Li picked it up and saw that it was the housekeeper Xia Fu calling. Jiang Li didn't need to guess that the purpose of Afu's call might be related to Bruce. Is there something going on? Alfred, I'm sorry to bother you so late, in fact, I do have something to ask for. Mr. Wayne went out to investigate the Owl Court 2 days ago, and he has not returned so far. I am a little worried. Sure enough, Fu called because he needed Jiang Li's help, and at the party 3 days ago, many high-ranking people were also attacked by a sharp claw. 2 days ago, Bruce incarnated as Batman to investigate the Owl Court behind the claws, but it has been 2 days, and Bruce still hasn't returned, which makes Fu a little worried. Jiang Li also knew that Bruce had fallen into the trap of the Owl Court and had been wandering within the maze he had set up. I see, send me Bruce's positioning, Alfred. Thank you for your help, I'll send it to you. After Jiang Li hung up the phone, he also received the location of Bruce before the signal was lost. Just as Jiang Li was about to leave, Barbara walked up to him and said, I'm going too. At this time, Barbara was angry, because Jiang Li did not tell her that he was not an ordinary person in the past, and she was almost the only one who did not know that Jiang Li would turn into a vigilante to rob the gang. And Black Lily and Jiang Li both know each other's identities, and last time she actually gave Black Lily cover, it seemed that she was like a clown, and she felt that she was compared by the woman who suddenly appeared. Jiang Li also had no choice, after all, he was also at fault first, so he had to agree to Barbara's request. Okay, let's go together. Barbara smiled when she heard this. That's pretty much it. The two were ready to go to a sewer area, and Jiang Li glanced at the positioning on a special instrument like a mobile phone, which was the location of Bruce's signal before he lost his signal. Jiang Li and Barbara looked at each other, nodded to each other, and then the soldiers divided into two ways and fumbled on the wall of the sewers, trying to find some secret passage mechanism. Soon, Jiang Li touched some unusual bricks, took out a small flashlight in the system space, and took a picture of Barbara's location. Barbara, who learned the signal, immediately came to Jiang Li's side, and then Jiang Li forcefully pushed down the abnormal bricks, and soon the surrounding bricks contracted, forming a doorway. The inside of the doorway is extremely dark, as if it is so deep that the flashlight cannot illuminate what is really inside. What special light-absorbing material should be? Jiang Li gestured and signaled him to go first, and then Barbara followed, and he could deal with any danger as soon as possible, and Barbara nodded in agreement. Immediately, Jiang Li walked into the doorway. It can be said that he can't see 5 fingers inside, but he can touch the walls on both sides, and this is like a tunnel. After walking for a while, Jiang Li turned his head to look, but found that he still couldn't see anything behind him, and the doorway he had come in before had disappeared. Shaba, can you hear me? Jiang Li pressed the earphone next to his ear and said softly. But there was no response in the headphones, only a rustling noise. It seems that this place not only absorbs light, but also blocks communication signals, making it impossible to connect to the outside world. Even without his signal, Barbara would walk in on her own, and he specially sensed the surroundings with his domineering appearance, and there was no trap. So Jiang Li continued to go deeper, and soon he saw a glimmer of light in front of his eyes. And Barbara, who was outside the door, saw that Jiang Li's signal did not appear for a long time, and suddenly began to be anxious. Could it be that he encountered some danger? No, she had to go in and take a look. Then, Barbara entered the door without hesitation, and after Barbara entered the door for a while, the doorway automatically merged and returned to its previous appearance. Episode 28. From that light, the river is getting closer and closer, and the closer to the light, the bigger and brighter. After entering the light completely, Jiang Li found himself walking into a closed white space with an owl water spring in the middle. Jiang Li looked around, his left and right sides had a path each. It seemed that he had come to the labyrinth of the owl court. After a while, at the door behind her, a figure ran out, and that figure was Barbara, who chased over, and when she saw Jiang Li, she was relieved. She came to Jiang Li's side, also glanced left and right and said, "Is this the lair of the owl court?" Yes and no. It can indeed be said that this is the lair of the owl court, but this is the maze trap designed by the owl court to torture the enemies who are their enemies. In the original work, even Batman almost died here. There is no food here, only clear water from the owl's fountain. Under the dual torture of spirit and body, even the willpower of human peaks such as Batman was almost planted in it. Sign into the owl court, reward, mysterious stopwatch, specific role host to explore on its own. Jiang Li frowned. This was the first time that the system gave him a mysterious reward, but before he could think about what this thing was, many figures appeared around him and Barbara. Those figures, all of them were humanoid weapons and claws of the owl court, and they held cold weapons of different shapes in their hands, aiming at Jiang Li and Barbara. It looks like we're surrounded. Barbara and Jiang Li were back to back, and she looked at the claws around her vigilantly. Hee, I haven't fought side by side with you yet. Jiang Li smiled. Then your opportunity has come. Subsequently, the two faced off against a large group of clawed assassins, and Jiang Li was quite comfortable with these claws, but Barbara was not a strong person. Although she has a lot of black technology, her physical fitness is far inferior to these claws, so Jiang Li has to protect Barbara from injury while dealing with claws. Directly above them, there were members of the owl court, watching them. I didn't expect them to find this. It seems that we all underestimated these bugs. However, none of them felt that Jiang Li and the others could deal with their army of claws, all of whom were well-trained assassins. 10 clawed assassins, how can 2 people deal with it? Night. Wayne Manor. The housekeeper A Fu was collecting teacups at the dining table when suddenly a black shadow flashed in the floor-to-ceiling window behind him. He quickly turned his head to look, but found nothing, but Fu did not feel that it was an illusion just now. It seemed that someone had evaded the manor's exploration and trap system. Fu turned his head and frowned, continuing to do the work at hand. His body was tense at this time, ready to deal with sudden changes. Suddenly, a cold light flashed, and Fu quickly ducked his head to the side, and a dagger slashed through his ear. Fu fixed his eyes in the direction where the dagger flew from, and the claw wearing a black thorn fell from the ceiling and appeared directly in front of his eyes. It looks like a thief has entered the house. Fu's eyes narrowed, and a cold color flashed in his eyes. It was because of them, his own master had not returned for 3 days. He picked up the finger tiger on the table and put it on his hand. Fu is not an ordinary butler, on the contrary, he has good skills in martial arts and fighting. New claws came out from behind Fu. Alfred Pennyworth, the Owl Court sentenced you to death. Seeing this, Fu left a drop of sweat on his forehead. Both of them were top experts, which made him feel a little pressured. Snap. Suddenly, it sprang up again. A figure broke through the glass of the floor-to-ceiling window and landed on the ground, and everyone's eyes were attracted to this person. He was wearing ordinary black pants and a coat. The most attractive thing is the red helmet he wears on his head, and another person who has never appeared in Gotham City, whether he is a villain or a decent person. If Jiang Li was here, he would recognize the true identity of the person, who was Jason, who died 3 months ago. Now that he has been successfully resurrected through the Lesa Road pool of the League of Assassins, coupled with the cultivation of Lei Xiaogu, he has now returned with a new identity, the Red Hood. Jason looked up and saw 2 claws surrounding Fu, and a fierce color flashed in his eyes under his helmet, and since he was resurrected, his mind had become tyrannical. He would use violence against enemies who hurt his family, and now he advocates violence against violence. Without hesitation, one of the claws rushed towards Jason and fought the latter. Fu saw that Jason's hostility did not seem to be on him, and his intuition told him that the person wearing the red helmet in front of him was not his enemy, and it seemed that his figure was somewhat familiar. And his fighting moves have some shadows of his own master. Episode 29, Inside Jiang Li's Manor. A group of claws consumed the manor's defense system at the expense of several claws, and only barely managed to enter the center of the manor. They landed on the roof of the house and entered the interior through windows, etc., but none of them saw it. The whole house was empty. Just as they were wondering, in the basement at their feet, Black Lily was sitting on the sofa wiping her Black Lily kiss. And around her are Harley and Selena. Selena still wears the symbolic Black Cat brand tight-fitting night suit, and wears yellow eyepieces around her eyes. Harley is wearing the familiar red and white t-shirt, red and blue jacket, red and blue shorts, and fishnet socks on her slender legs, and her hair is still pure blonde. At first, it was Jiang Li's opinion, and then Harley's own creativity was added, and finally it was presented. Then again, are we sure we're not called Little Stephanie? I think she's cute, Harley said while putting makeup on her face to the 2 women who were waiting for her. Stephanie has always been Jiang Li's little follower and disciple in her heart, and she has taken over the identity of being Stephanie's sister-in-law. And the most important point is that Stephanie is in her heart, that is, the image of a good person who will not compete with her. No, the boss has already said, she is not ready, and she is obviously inexperienced. Black Lily said to Harley after wiping her baby gun. Okay. Snap. Harley slapped the dressing table hard and naturally moved on to another topic, and she said with anger on her face, just because of those bad guys, they can only go out to investigate, so that we are separated from each other, and we can obviously share a bed tonight. Like a mental patient running out of the hospital, Hallie stood on the dressing table and said to her 2 daughters who were looking up at her, "Ready? Sisters, defend us." No, it's time to defend the love nest of me and the departure. It's a pity that the 2 women didn't give her a response, and Selena half squinted at the Black Lily who was also half squinted, and the meaning in her eyes was already very obvious. What did Jiang Li fancy about this woman? Harley also ignored the eyes of the 2 women, picked up the wooden hammer leaning against the dressing table, swung it in the air and put it on her shoulder. Go. 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 Black Lily and Selena looked at each other, and the other party went out directly, without making a plan at all. It seems to be quite Harley's style. They had to sigh helplessly and keep up with the nervous Hallie. Hallie spread her hand above her eyes, looking around for her target, and then she saw a sharp claw appear around the corner more than 10 meters away. After discovering the target, Harley raised the wooden hammer and rushed in the direction of the claw, as if she was dead. And Claw heard Hallie's yelling and rushed directly towards Harley with both legs, and during the run, Claw threw a dagger at Harley. At this moment, the soles of Hallie's feet suddenly slipped, and she fell to the ground with a plop, miraculously dodging the dagger. Whether it was the claws or the Black Lily and Selena who had just come out, they were stunned. How could there be such a coincidence? Just fell at that time. Saying that Hallie was lucky, she tripped herself and fell, saying that luck was not good. The dagger slashed over her head, and did not hurt Harley in the slightest. It's an accident, come again. Standing up, Harley regained her strength and rushed to the running claws again. Seeing this, Black Lily immediately activated the spider eye-like combat eyepiece, switched Black Lily's kiss to sniper mode, and aimed the muzzle at the claw. Bang! An energy bullet shot out from the muzzle of Black Lily Kiss, hitting the chest of the claw with incomparable accuracy, causing the opponent's movement to suddenly stall. Touch. The perfect opportunity made Harley's attack have a good effect. The wooden hammer fell from the sky, and the hammer directly hit the claw's head with the ground. Harley's strength is also not small, smashing the skull of the claw alive, because listening to Jiang Li, the claw is not a living human being, it belongs to the category of the living dead. The three women will not show mercy to their subordinates, let alone Black Lily as a killer. Before the three women could rest, they were surrounded by nearly 10 sharp claws, including men and women, and holding different weapons. They were attracted by 2 consecutive rounds of shouting from Harley, which exposed Harley to the sight of Black Lily and Selena. But Harley seemed to have not noticed their gaze, and held the wooden hammer with a solemn expression. It seems that this bastard sent a message to his companion before he died. The meaning is already obvious. Anyway, it's not my fault. If you want to blame it, the claw that died on the ground is too fine. In the next moment, something sprang up. A purple figure broke through the glass of the floor-to-ceiling window and landed on the ground, attracting everyone's attention. She wore a purple cloak, purple-black tight stealth suit, a mask that covered the lower half of her face, and a blonde hair that attracted people's attention. She is Stephanie incarnated. Spoiler. Come and disrupt the situation. Episode 30. Several claws looked at each other a few times. They didn't know who was in front of them, and there was no Stephanie in their target. But after thinking about it, since it is to block them from assassinating the target, then it can also be eliminated by the way. The claw of the suspected leader in the middle looked at another claw beside him, and after learning the order, that claw rushed towards Stephanie with a western sword. Stephanie's eyes narrowed, and she took out a silver 3-section stick from behind her. After 3 days of unremitting efforts, she could be regarded as having learned some 3-section stick fur from Jiang Li. Tonight, she's going to prove that she's not a vase. And on the other side of the maze, the clawed army that surrounded Jiang Li and Barbara, nearly half of the claws had died under the tacit cooperation of the two of them, and the remaining 5 claws were like candles in the wind. It's time to end. Jiang Li's eyes were fierce, and then he raised his right foot and stepped heavily on the ground. Boo! The extremely unscientific force shook the bricks of the floor into the air, and even the remaining 5 claws were suspended in the air by this incredible force. Their figures in the air seemed to be stopped by time, but in fact, not only them, everything around them seemed to have fallen into time stagnation. Whether it was Barbara, who was surprised by Jiang Li's power, and the members of the Owl Court who were watching the battle, the water in the Owl Pool also stopped. There was only one person in the audience acting normally, and that was the source of all this, Jiang Li. Jiang Li straightened his somewhat messy collar and cowboy hat on his head, and then white ivory and ebony rotated 360 degrees on his hands. Slaughter frenzy. The muzzles of the 2 guns were aimed at the clawed 5 people hanging in the air, and the trigger was immediately pulled. Bang bang bang. Jiang Li's figure was like a phantom, and only a few afterimages were seen under the naked eye, and the bullet shot at the 5 claws at an extremely unscientific speed and bullet volume. Then, Jiang Li threw the 2 guns in the roughly middle of the 5 people, jumped into the air to catch the 2 guns, and the next moment rotated rapidly in the air, and the bullets once again hit the claws like money. Jiang Li fell to the ground, stood up and snapped after standing up, and snapped his fingers. Boo! With the sound of snapping fingers, the surrounding time returned to the normal flow rate, and the claws in the sky suddenly exploded, and suddenly flesh and blood flew everywhere. With absolute strength, Jiang Li eliminated all the claws that surrounded them, and the members of the Owl Court, who saw that something was wrong, hurriedly slipped away and prepared for an emergency meeting. Wow! It's disgusting. Seeing this, Barbara suddenly trembled, sticking out her tongue to make a disgusted expression, although it did not touch her, but it did not prevent her from being disgusting. Is that you? There is also the Batgirl. At this time, Bruce's voice came from behind the 2, and his voice was a little hoarse at this time, and he didn't know how long he hadn't drunk water. Jiang Li and Barbara turned to look, and sure enough, they saw Bruce propped up against the wall, looking at them suspiciously. The previous Bruce suffered a visionary blow from the Owl Court, and the dead Wayne couple suddenly appeared in his eyes, and Bruce, who suffered a mental blow, directly believed that they were still alive. Subsequently, he was scratched by an owl, and after the precedent, this is the scene where Bruce does not believe the person in front of him. Jiang Li rolled his eyes and said directly, "Do you need me to tell you about your childhood embarrassments? When you were 7 years old." Who knew that Bruce raised his hand to stop him from continuing? Enough is enough, no need to continue. After all, there is a third person present here, and Bruce must maintain his majestic and cold side of Batman, so he directly interrupted Jiang Li to continue. Jiang Li smiled and stepped forward to hold Bruce up. "Tell me what you found." Hearing this, Bruce's eyes looked at the smiling Jiang Li, and after taking a deep look, he couldn't help sighing. Okay. Bruce knows that Jiang Li intends to uproot Gotham's Owl Court, And then Bruce tells Jiang Li about his intelligence discovery and the information about the base camp that investigated the Owl Court when he was a child. Jiang Li nodded after hearing this, and then sent Bruce back to the ground, leaving Barbara to go back by herself and go to the lair of the Owl Court alone. I don't know how long it took, in a hidden secret room. Bang! The man in a white suit and an owl mask raised his hands and smashed the table, his tone full of anger. Damn it! When did such a weird person appear in Gotham? Most of the main forces are here and can't help each other. Jiang Li's various outrageous operations shocked everyone in the Owl Court. Okay, now we should think about how to deal with that man later. One of the Owl Court members suggested, which also gave the other members a nod in agreement. At this time, a strangely behaved member stretched his leg out from under the table and put his leg on the table in front of everyone, which made the other members immediately dissatisfied. They are all high-class people in Gotham, and the most annoying thing is such disrespectful behavior. At this moment, only the man at the beginning found something strange. Who are you? How do I not remember that there was you in court? Don't remember? Huh. As soon as the words fell, he took off his owl mask and revealed his original true appearance, which was the object of discussion among the members just now, Jiang Li. Everyone was shocked, quickly got up from their seats and walked away from each other, and even ran directly to the wall behind them, wanting to get the shotgun hanging on the wall. Bang! With the sound of gunfire, the person who wanted to take the shotgun fell to the ground. Seeing this, everyone's faces under the mask were already extremely pale, and they all shrunk to the side, like a group of owl cubs meeting a fierce eagle. Jiang Li walked to the door and looked at the members of the Owl Court who smelled of fear all the time with a smile. You. What exactly do you want? An owl member pointed at Jiang Li tremblingly and said. Jiang Li raised his eyebrows and aimed the muzzles of white ivory and ebony at them. Now it's just to change the position of the hunter and the prey. Slaughter frenzy.